in and year out, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have been able to remain a winning team, but they have yet to find a consistent starter at quarterback or postseason success since Big Ben Roethlisberger. Now Pittsburgh in a quarterback controversy between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
He once upon a time had a Hall of Fame career trajectory before leveling off and then bottoming out a couple of times in Denver, and it incurred the largest dead money cap hit in the history of the National Football League. And it also involves Justin Fields now is on this team because the Bears decided to use the first overall pick this year.
When the Pittsburgh Steelers signed 9-time Pro Bowler Russell Wilson, it looked like it was his team. But then, out of nowhere, they traded for Justin Fields. And now they've got a full-blown quarterback competition on their hands.
It's amazing how it went from he is worthy of being the quarterback of the future for the Chicago Bears, and the Bears fans love him. And all of a sudden now he's hot garbage. And he's definitely a backup quarterback. And Russell Wilson, who did have improved numbers last year, but still, we're looking for the Russ cooking.
With two alpha quarterbacks vying for the top spots, tensions are running high, the locker room is on the edge, and disaster could be lurking around the corner. Steeler fans everywhere were delighted to have just gotten rid of Kenny Pickett and begin a new era, an exciting era with a quarterback who's had the career that Russell Wilson has had. Remarkably, Wilson inked a deal for a mere $1.2 million thanks to the Broncos footing the bill for the remainder of his massive contract upon his release. Wilson's time in Denver was considered by most to be a colossal disappointment given the $245 million contract that was given to him. However, his 2023 season was much better than many people did give him credit for. He finished with 26 touchdowns and just 8 interceptions, giving him a top 10 passer rating in the league, despite Denver's losing record. And look, bringing in a guy that has Russell Wilson's experience and his skill set looks like a brilliant move for this franchise, especially considering the fact that they did make the playoffs last year with the quarterback that they had that really wasn't even close to what Russell Wilson is capable of. And now that they have Wilson, the playoff scene and honestly their trajectory could look completely different now. With Wilson under center, there was clear stability for the franchise, who started Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitchell Trubisky over the course of the last season. However, days after just acquiring Russell Wilson, they made an even stranger and bold move. They traded a 6th-round pick to the Chicago Bears for the dynamic Justin Fields, a player who divides opinion like few others in the NFL.
If you give Justin Fields, in my opinion, an opportunity to win this quarterback competition outright, I believe he does. I believe his floor is as high as Russell Wilson's floor will be, but his ceiling is way above where Russell is right now.
Fields is an exceptional runner ranked among the league's top rushing quarterbacks, and honestly, you could debate that he does belong as a running back in the league now. However, doubts linger about his passing skills, and he has yet to make the leap to the elite level that many Bears fans had hoped he would make. And many people argued that if you got Justin Fields, a better team and guys around him, and even a better coach, that he would be able to reach that elite level that he's supposed to be at. And as so it turns out, the Steelers also in fact seem possibly to believe that as well. But does this decision to bring him in create more problems than it solves? And the simple answer to that question is yes, it does. Quarterback controversies are a headache for any head coach and fan base. The Steelers are not used to these, having the Hall of Famer Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback for nearly 20 years, as the team had constant success, including 2 Super Bowl rings during his tenure. Mike Tomlin announced this week that Russell Wilson is in pole position to start week 1, citing the 12 years of experience that he has under his belt. But he also stated that Justin Fields will have an opportunity to compete, which has already started drama in the Steel City.
I was just glad to hear Mike Tomlin essentially say that there will be a competition, because the Steelers were pretty adamant out of the gates that after they signed Justin Fields, Russell Wilson would be the starter. They definitely walked that back and made very clear this will be a competition in training camp. And to me, I think it will be a dead even heat based on what I'm hearing about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Wilson is expected to have a fresh start for himself after his Denver nightmare. He's expected to be the starter in week 1, no questions asked, and to have the opportunity as a fresh start with this team in this offense. Russell Wilson is more than capable of game managing this offense along with that elite defense that the Steelers have. I mean, if you look at the team that they have now with the players, including Russell Wilson, and maybe they convert Justin Fields to a running back, they honestly look like they can be elite competitors in the AFC. The Fields signing has stirred up some trouble though, casting uncertainty over the upcoming training camp as both quarterbacks are expected to battle for the starting role. Here we have two seasoned starters from last season, each seeking a fresh start, only to find themselves in direct competition. And look, if we're being frank, this is an important year for the Steelers. Despite last year's struggles with quarterback play, they still managed a respectable 10-7 record and made the playoffs. However, it's crucial for the Steelers not to squander the talent on their defense, which is why they've made these roster moves in the first place.
Have to draft a wide receiver early in this draft. It cannot just be the George Pickens show. He's not consistent enough and he's not reliable enough. Talented, yes, but they got to get somebody outside of him as well.
Last season, the Steelers ranked 6th in scoring defense while also ranking in the bottom 5 for scoring offense. The team gave up less than 20 points in half of their games, which was crucial in keeping them competitive in the NFL's strongest division inside the AFC North, and also keeping them able to seal a wildcard place in the process. I mean, in fact, it was in the divisional games against the Ravens and the Bengals that TJ Watt and company really shined through. Arguably the most impressive win of the season was a 17-10 victory over Lamar Jackson and his Baltimore Ravens. Like, I mean, the Steelers won despite just putting up 289 yards on offense and just a single touchdown themselves. In TJ Watt, the Steelers have arguably the league's very best defensive player, although he did controversially lose out on Defensive Player of the Year to Browns' Myles Garrett despite a 19-sack season. Watt is one of those few truly game-wrecking defenders in the league, and he is a constant threat to any opposing team, capable of keeping the Steelers in any game. He's not alone in that defensive unit, however, though, with the likes of Alex Highsmith, Eldon Roberts, and Pro Bowler Minkah Fitzpatrick all playing their part in the unit's success throughout the season. In addition to this, the Steelers have also picked up ex-Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen on a big deal, further bolstering an excellent unit that's among the best in the league. And I mean, this was all capable and possible to sign players like Queen because they're not spending a lot of money on their quarterback like other contending teams in the league. Like, I mean, on offense as well, the Steelers have some decent weapons. George Pickens has managed nearly 2,000 yards in 2 seasons, despite receiving passes from Pickett, Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Plus, when you add the running back duo of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, they've already shown that those two can be a success, with the two combining for over 1,800 yards on the ground last year. The Steelers' rushing offense was much better than their passing equivalent, ranking in the top half of the league for yardage. Like, I mean, this team is already a playoff caliber team, and they have a coach that's led them there multiple times in Mike Tomlin. With their first round pick, most likely, I would say probably going to be used on an offensive lineman. That's just my best guess. Whoever does take the reins as a quarterback is going to have a great foundation and great weapons around them to make a run. So now, to answer the question that you really came here for, who's going to be the starting quarterback, and how could this quarterback situation actually play out? And for starters, regardless of who does start, they're going to be under immense pressure, not only by the organization, but the fan base around them.
If Russ plays well, these Yinzers will go to bat for this guy for the rest of his life, which I think is a good thing for Russ. If he plays terrible, these Yinzers are going to get real loud and obnoxious. Yeah. Probably the worst that he's ever heard, if I had to guess.
So let's start with Russell Wilson, assuming that he's going to be the starter, just based off of what Mike Tomlin has said, considering that he most likely does have pole position right now and is going to be the starter. Wilson is already under pressure after 2 years of intense criticism from fans and media alike after how his Denver Broncos stint went. In many ways, the situation that he faced in Denver is very similar to this one though, with an elite defense simply looking for that top quarterback to get them over the line. Pittsburgh fans will be desperate to see Wilson succeed, having endured the previous 2 seasons of abysmal offense. They might be patient with him as long as he proves to be an improvement over the previous quarterbacks. And at least this part of Russell Wilson's structured contract is a little bit different, because in Denver, they really just kept him as a starter because of how much they had invested in him considering they had a $245 million deal locked up in this guy. However, Pittsburgh offers a little bit more of a complex and tougher environment for him to win in. The Steelers are spending significantly less on Wilson, and as a result, they may not feel the same loyalty toward him as Denver did. And basically, to sum this up, just because they have Russell Wilson on a vet minimum and not all that money locked up and tied up into him gives them more reason to honestly, if he does start to play bad, to maybe bench him and put in Justin Fields.
If you give Justin Fields, in my opinion, an opportunity to win this quarterback competition outright, I believe he does. I believe his floor is as high as Russell Wilson's floor will be, but his ceiling is way above where Russell is right now. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you should want Justin Fields to win this job.
In this situation, the Steelers faithful might be willing to roll the dice on Fields, a player who unquestionably has a huge amount of upside. Fields won the heart of the Chicago fan base through a selection of exhilarating run plays despite having very little to work with. Justin Fields' highlights on YouTube is as good as any other quarterback or players in this league. He's constantly weaving his way in between defenders and showcasing incredible breakaway speed that very few in the league can match. In Chicago, Fields was a popular teammate with many of his own teammates vocally backing him up as it looked like his time in the Windy City might be coming to an end. Contrast this with Wilson, who has been betrayed by his teammates as things went wrong in Denver, and some saying that he was aloof and not considered a team player by some in the organization. A coach like Tomlin will strive to manage any locker room conflicts or internal disputes, but in a situation like this, complete control may not always be achievable. Both of these guys are absolutely desperate to get a start, but of course, Tomlin, like any other coach, is going to have to make that decision, and he's going to have to abide by the media and his players. If Russell Wilson is dropped for Fields, it's very unlikely that he's going to take that well, especially if the rumors about him in Seattle were true. Wilson allegedly asked longtime coach Pete Carroll to be fired, giving further fuel to the fire that he is not a good teammate and could be damaging to the locker room. It's hard to imagine Tomlin putting up with a guy like that either. And finally, the possible most controversial reason is, does this offense maybe suit Justin Fields better than Russell Wilson?
I think if this was a true competition, Greenies, true open competition, Justin Fields would be the starting quarterback.
I think the Fields finish strong is, we're letting our eyes kind of lie to us. Look at the numbers. He had 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, 82 passer rating, under 200 yards passing per game. He was sacked 3 times a game. Didn't play that great. I think just better than what he had played previously before he got injured.
Arthur Smith is in as the offensive coordinator, and nobody loves to establish the run more than the former Titans OC and Falcons head coach. Schemed correctly, Justin Fields could end up as a frontrunner for the MVP in a heavy run offense. As we discussed before, this Steelers running back duo is a good one, performing a 2-pronged attack that caused problems for plenty of teams last season, with the Steelers rushing for over 150 yards on 6 different occasions. However, over in Chicago, Justin Fields was leading an even better one with limited help from the running back room. Fields racked up 657 yards in just 13 games, leading the Bears in rushing yards in 2023. The year before that, Fields put up an incredible 1,143 yards on the ground, the second best total in the 104-year history of pro football, behind only Lamar Jackson's 2019 MVP season. The idea of an explosive and dynamic quarterback like Justin Fields in this offense could be something that Tomlin and the staff does get behind. And look, if they do let Fields get a start and maybe go down the field and get some drives in him, this really could be the turning point in Justin Fields' career, and it's even with a better coach in Mike Tomlin. Despite Russell Wilson and Justin Fields being 10 years apart in the NFL and in age, their careers honestly are at the same crossing point. If one of them does not have a good season, this could be the end for them in the NFL. This is a real fork in the road, not only for the two quarterbacks, but for the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. This defense is just too talented to be wasting another season, so that's why they went out and got these guys. The Steelers are one of the league's flagship franchises, having won 6 Super Bowl championships and having the league's highest win percentage in the Super Bowl era. However, the team has now gone 7 years without winning a playoff game, the longest such run since the 1960s before the days of Terry Bradshaw. This team is well positioned for a run in 2024. But they have to get this quarterback decision right. The next few months, including the preseason, will be fascinating in Pittsburgh, as the team has to make their call as to who starts in week 1 and beyond. Arguably, the most important thing to any successful organization is stability, particularly at the head coach and starting quarterback position. The Steelers now have the league's longest serving head coach in Tomlin. For this season to go well, they will need to deal with the controversy early. And I mean, Tomlin is already working on that with his media appearances, but there's no way that the door has been closed fully on Justin Fields just yet. The black and gold faithful will just be hoping for a productive, drama-free season after the disappointments of previous seasons. Otherwise, it'll be another wasted season, and they'll be back to square one this time next year, still searching for the replacement of Big Ben. But I want to know what you guys think. Are the Steelers legit contenders, and who do you guys think is going to be starting week 1, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? Let me know down in the comment section below, and as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.